I used to think my wife was the kind of woman other men envied me for. Polished, smart, affectionate in a way that made people say we were that couple. The couple that smiled too much at dinners, the couple that held hands at grocery stores, the couple that others assumed had it all figured out. Maybe that's why the first signs felt so unreal. Small things, quiet things, the kinds of details most men would brush off. But I've always noticed details. The first red flag was her perfume. She started wearing a different one, something sweeter, more youthful, with a warm, sugary trail that lingered in the bedroom even after she left for work. She said it was a sale purchase, but she wore it only on days when she left the house early and came home late. Then came the lingerie. I found a lace set tucked behind her sweaters, tags still attached. Red, something bold, something she'd never worn for me. Not once in our entire marriage. She claimed it was for herself, that women sometimes bought things like that for confidence. Confidence for what, exactly? But I didn't ask. Not yet. The next thing was her phone. She used to leave it on the couch, the counter, the bedside table. Lately, she kept it glued to her hand like it was a second heartbeat. Screens flipped downward, notifications silenced, screen time passcode suddenly activated. Whenever I walked into the room, she locked it so fast the click became a new soundtrack to our evenings. Still, I said nothing. That was my power. The silence. She thought I was blind, distracted, comfortable. She had no idea how awake I'd suddenly become. One night I heard it, the whispering. I was in the hallway, heading to the kitchen for a glass of water. Her voice drifted through the half-closed bedroom door, soft but tense, the tone she used only when she didn't want anyone else to hear. Yes, the trip is confirmed. Just us. No, he won't know. Trust me. My blood ran cold, but my heartbeat stayed even. Years of calm habits don't disappear in one night. I angled myself slightly toward the door, listening. I couldn't hear every word, but I didn't need to. The tone was enough. The breathiness, the nervous giggle she used to save for me. And then, the line that sealed it. I can't wait to have you all to myself. For a moment, a tight, hot pressure closed around my chest, the kind that could snap a weaker man in half. But I stood there quietly, breathing slow, steady, controlled. She didn't know I was listening. A second later, she lowered her voice further, almost into a whisper of a whisper. We just have to be careful. He believes everything I say. I smiled, not because anything was funny, but because that sentence told me everything I needed to know. She thought she was smarter, thought she was playing me, thought I was the loyal, trusting idiot who didn't suspect a thing. That alone was enough to change something in me. Permanently. I stepped backward, silently. I wasn't going to confront her. Not tonight. Not while she was riding the high of planning her secret getaway with whoever was on the other end of that call. Instead, I walked back into my office, calmly, almost peacefully, and opened the drawer where I kept my small audio recorder, the one I used for work interviews. I sat on the couch, pretending to watch a show. She came out 5 minutes later, smiling too widely, cheeks flushed from excitement she hoped I'd think came from girl talk. "You're still awake?" she asked. "Couldn't sleep," I replied, casually lifting my phone like I was scrolling aimlessly. She kissed my cheek, soft, quick, practiced. Her lips tasted like mint gum. She only chewed mint gum after sneaking wine or trying to hide her voice cracking from emotion. She thought I didn't know that. She went to bed early. I waited an hour. Then I slipped into the hallway again, recorder in hand, opened the voice memo file, and played back the sound captured through the thin bedroom wall. Clear enough. Clear enough to confirm everything. She whispered his name. Not mine. Never mine. And then she whispered something else, something that made a calm, slow fire ignite in my chest. Our escape is going to be perfect. Escape. Not vacation. Not trip. Escape. I leaned back in my chair, pressing stop on the recorder, and stared at the dark ceiling. She wanted a perfect escape? Fine. She would get a vacation she'd never forget. Not in the way she imagined. Not even close. The next morning she acted like nothing happened. She hummed while making coffee, kissed my cheek as she left for work, wore the same sugary perfume she reserved only for her special days. She didn't notice the way I watched her. Not angrily, not broken, just observant. She thought I was still the man who never questioned her, the man who believed every excuse, the man who trusted automatically. And maybe that version of me did exist once, but he died last night, quietly, as she whispered plans about a secret getaway with another man. I waited until I heard her car pull out of the driveway before I started my work. Step 1, act normal. Step 2, gather everything. I brewed myself a coffee, sat on the edge of the bed, and looked around the room with fresh eyes. Her side was tidy, too tidy, as if guilt forced her to overcompensate. Her phone, of course, was gone with her. But her laptop sat open on the vanity table, something she never left open. She must have rushed this morning. I walked toward it slowly, not touching anything, my pulse steady and calm. If she left it unlocked, it wasn't a coincidence. It was a gift from whatever universal force enjoyed irony. The screen was still glowing, Gmail open, several tabs at the top, a PDF still loading. I moved the mouse only an inch, enough to activate the screen fully. My eyes went straight to the email subject line. Your flight confirmation, Bon Voyage Getaways. A travel agency. Cute, classy, discreet. I clicked. The page opened with a bright blue banner of palm trees and champagne glasses, the kind of cheesy romantic getaway graphic she used to make fun of. Passenger list. 1. Her maiden name. 2. A man's name. I recognized immediately the lover, the one she whispered to last night. And then something even more interesting. Billing name, her maiden name. Status, couple package, no spouse. She booked a couple's trip while pretending she wasn't even married. I let out a low, breathless chuckle. Not angry, not even surprised, just amused by how sloppy she had become. I scrolled down and found the final cherry on the cake. In her contacts, she had renamed me as Plumber. No emoji, no capital letters, just a service provider, so that if he ever saw my messages, he'd think I was the guy fixing sinks. I leaned back in the chair slowly, letting the ridiculousness of it sink in. My wife was cheating on me. She was planning a romantic trip with another man. She used her maiden name to pretend she wasn't married, and she renamed me the Plumber to hide her double life. I didn't feel heartbroken. I didn't feel destroyed. I felt entertained, because the moment I read her name next to his on that ticket, a plan began forming. A sharp, beautiful plan that curled warm and dangerous inside my chest. It wasn't rage that fueled it. It was something colder, something cleaner. Revenge, when calculated, has a way of turning into art. And this trip? This surprise tropical escape she was planning behind my back? I was about to turn it into a masterpiece. I kept scrolling, and the deeper I went, the more information she unintentionally gifted me. Hotel reservation, already paid. Itinerary for romantic couples activities. Matching swimsuits she ordered. A folder labeled New Documents. And a screenshot of flight instructions she must have sent him. Curiosity tugged at me. I clicked the New Documents folder. Inside, copies of her passport, digital signature forms, a scanned ID application under her maiden name. She was preparing something bigger than a simple trip, but that was a problem for later chapters of her downfall. Right now, all I cared about was one thing, her flight. I memorized the booking number, then wrote it down. Back when we first married, she used to call me her personal tech wizard because I fixed everything digital she broke. She thought my skills began and ended with reconnecting Wi-Fi. She forgot I used to work in cybersecurity. With one booking number, I could rewrite her entire destiny. I closed the laptop gently, just as it was before, leaving no trace of what I'd seen. As I walked out of the bedroom, something inside me shifted. Not bitterness, not sadness, anticipation. The first stage was done. Observation, evidence, confirmation. Now came the fun part. I grabbed my keys, stepped outside into the crisp air, and whispered to myself, "All right, sweetheart, let's upgrade your vacation." I smiled, the slow, calculated smile of a man who already knows he's won, and headed to my office to begin the next phase, the part where I stop being the plumber in her contacts and become the architect of the trip she'll never forget. Most men, when they find out their wife is cheating, spiral. They yell, throw things, cry, drink, break down emotionally. But when I sat at my desk that afternoon, staring at her flight confirmation and the lover's name printed right next to hers, I didn't feel broken. I felt focused, calculated, like a chess player making the opening move of a beautiful, cruel game. It started with a sip of coffee and a simple question. How do you ruin a romantic trip without them knowing you were ever involved? I opened my laptop, typed in the airline website, and navigated to the booking portal. My fingers moved with muscle memory, the same skills I'd used for years at work solving problems no one else could. I typed the reservation code she so kindly left for me. Her booking popped up instantly. 2 passengers, 2 seats, 2 futures she thought she had neatly arranged. "Not anymore," I whispered. The system required a login for major changes, but I didn't need major changes. I only needed one microscopic adjustment, small enough to go unnoticed until she reached the airport, big enough to crush her carefully constructed fantasy. I clicked on her name. Cancel passenger reservation. One tap. A small box opened. This action is irreversible. Continue? Absolutely. I pressed confirm, watched as her name disappeared from the itinerary like it had never existed there at all. The airline issued a refund instantly, and because I changed the billing email to mine months ago, for household management, as she thought, the money flowed directly into my private account. Her lover still had his seat, still had his bags checked in, still had his romantic getaway. She would show up at the airport with dreams of sex on the beach and breakfast in bed, and instead meet reality at the check-in counter. But sabotage alone wasn't enough. I wanted the collapse to feel elegant. I wanted her to walk into her own trap thinking I was the doting, clueless husband who wouldn't dream of suspecting anything. So I opened a new email tab and drafted something automated looking. Subject, a romantic surprise, just for you from Bon Voyage Getaways, alias created by me in under 60 seconds. Email body, your husband has upgraded your trip to make it extra special. Enjoy the romantic escape, our gift to you both. I sent it directly to her inbox. 10 minutes later, I heard the familiar ping from her phone in the other room, the sound she usually tried to hide, except this time she forgot to mute it. She squealed, actually squealed. I hadn't heard her sound that excited in years. She rushed into the kitchen where I was chopping vegetables like a man genuinely preparing dinner for the woman he loved. "Honey," she beamed, waving her phone. "You're unbelievable." I looked up, raised a brow innocently. What happened? She threw her arms around me, something she hadn't done without hesitation in months. Her hands slid around my waist, too eagerly, too performatively. Her perfume pressed into my shirt. She tried to kiss my neck, and for a moment, just a brief, traitorous moment, I felt her body against mine and wondered how many times she pressed it against him instead. But I stayed perfectly calm. "What did I do?" I asked with a soft, confused smile. "You upgraded our trip," she said. "You're sending me on a girl's getaway with first-class everything. I didn't even know you knew about it." Girl's getaway. Cute lie. Bold lie. Her eyes sparkled with the confidence of someone who believed she had outsmarted everyone in the room. I put the knife down, turned to her, and gave her the warmest, most convincing husband smile I had left. "Well," I said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, "you deserve something special." Her breath hitched in her throat, not from guilt, but from the way my fingers grazed her skin. She leaned in closer, lips parted slightly, eyes soft with a mixture of surprise and something like desire. Funny. She hadn't looked at me like that in months. Maybe the guilt made her think she needed to perform affection. Maybe the excitement of running away with her lover sparked something primal. Or maybe she liked the idea of me being oblivious, of being admired by two men at once. She pressed her body closer to mine, her fingers lightly running down my arm. If I didn't know better, I'd think she was trying to seduce me. But I knew too much. I'd heard too much. So I just kissed her forehead gently. "Have fun, sweetheart." She melted into that line, melted into the illusion she thought she controlled. But I was the one writing the script. As I watched her leave the kitchen with a spring in her step, humming that same excited tune from the morning, I leaned on the counter and let out a slow breath. Her trip was booked. Her lover's seat was secure. Her seat was gone. All I had to do now was wait for the moment her fantasy collided with reality. And when it did, the real vacation, the one she'd remember for the rest of her life, would finally begin. The morning of the trip felt strangely calm. My wife floated around the house like a woman in a perfume commercial, humming, glowing, moving with that soft, airy excitement she used to have only when we first started dating. She wore a new dress, one I hadn't seen before, with thin straps and just enough cleavage to prove it wasn't meant for a girl's trip. She caught me staring once, not out of desire, but calculation, and she blushed like a teenager who thought she still had the world fooled. "You're staring," she giggled. "Just admiring you," I said, smiling like the man she believed me to be. She walked over and wrapped her arms around my neck, pressing her body against mine. Her perfume, that sugary, warm scent she reserved for him, rushed into my senses. She tilted her head, lips inches from mine. "Thank you again for the upgrade," she whispered. "You're amazing." Her fingers traced my jawline, slow, deliberate, teasing. Sexual affection used as a bandage for guilt. She had no idea how cold I'd grown inside, no idea how rehearsed her touches felt now. I kissed her cheek and stepped back. "Have a great trip. Text me when you land." She gave a playful smile. Of course. I knew she wouldn't, but that was fine. In 3 hours, she'd have more urgent problems. I watched from the window as her taxi pulled away, her hand waving through the glass like some romantic movie heroine. She even blew me a kiss. The performance was almost impressive. Almost. I waited 10 minutes, then grabbed my keys and left. Not to the airport. That would be too obvious. I went to the cafe across the street, ordered a coffee, sat by the window, and opened the airline app on my phone. Her flight, on time. Her seat, non-existent perfect. At 10:52 a.m., the message came. A single line. Not from her. From the airline portal I hacked into using her account. Passenger her name has failed to check in. Of course she failed. There was no passenger to check in. I refreshed the flight monitor. The lover's name showed checked in with a neatly printed boarding pass. He was probably sitting in the VIP lounge right now sipping overpriced champagne she thought the airline gifted him. Meanwhile, she was rolling her suitcase through the airport with excitement practically radiating from her. I imagined her walking to the counter, her hips swaying, her lips glossed, thinking she was minutes away from reuniting with the man she'd been fantasizing about behind my back. Thinking she'd fooled me, fooled everyone. Then, it happened. My phone buzzed. Not from the airline, not from anyone I knew, from her. A single sentence. "Are you awake?" I smiled. Oh, she was panicking already. I didn't answer. 20 seconds later. "Babe, the airline says they can't find my reservation. Did you use a different name?" I set the phone down and savored the moment like a fine drink. Then, "This isn't funny. They're saying my ticket doesn't exist." Another buzz. "Did the travel agency mess up?" Another. "Answer me." I didn't. I refreshed the flight screen. Her lover, boarding her status. No ticket found. My coffee had never tasted better. Then the real messages started coming. "They're telling me the flight is full. I can't get another seat. I don't understand. Please pick up. Why aren't you answering?" I watched my phone light up over and over, but my finger never moved toward it. She was alone at that counter, heart racing, trying to piece together something that made sense. Except there was no sense for her to find. I was the only one who knew the script, and she was reading the wrong lines. I pictured her face, that moment when reality starts crushing the fantasy she built so carefully. When the airline clerk repeats the same sentence she doesn't want to hear, "Ma'am, you have no reservation." And her lover, already through security, his phone set to airplane mode, the one time he wasn't available to save her. She thought she was running off into paradise. Instead, she was running into a brick wall of her own lies. My phone buzzed again, but this time it wasn't her. It was a notification. Lover's name has boarded. Flight departing in 14 minutes. I chuckled under my breath. Her lover was on his way to a foreign country, thinking she would be on the same plane. She, meanwhile, was probably arguing with the staff, her face red, her voice cracking, trying to figure out why a first-class romantic trip suddenly didn't include her. This wasn't just revenge. This was poetry. 10 minutes later, she finally cracked. "I don't know what happened. I'm coming home. Please don't leave the house. I need to talk to you." I stared at that message for a long moment, not because it mattered, but because that was the moment she realized something. Her lover wasn't answering. Her ticket was gone. The airline couldn't help her, and she was completely, utterly alone. Her dream trip had evaporated at the check-in counter. I typed one thing back. "Drive safe. I'll be here. No anger, no accusation, no emotion. Just calm. The kind of calm that terrifies a guilty person, because she had no idea what I knew, and she had absolutely no idea what was coming next." While she was sitting in her taxi, furious, confused, and rehearsing whatever lie she would try to sell me when she got home, her lover was thousands of feet above the ocean, blissfully unaware of the disaster waiting on both ends. To him, it was just a romantic escape. To her, it was an escape in the literal sense. To me, it was step 3 of a plan she'd never see coming. I tracked his flight from my phone while waiting for her taxi to crawl back to our house. The plane icon on the screen moved slowly across the map, crossing borders, oceans, time zones. By the time her lover's plane landed, she still hadn't left the airport parking lot on our side of the world. She probably sat there gripping the steering wheel, staring at her dead phone screen, wondering how everything went so wrong so fast. I didn't text her. I didn't call her. Silence was better than any confrontation. Silence makes guilty people panic. Meanwhile, I watched the next chapter unfold from my kitchen table like it was a movie I produced. At the foreign airport, her lover strolled through the glass tunnel with the confidence of a man convinced he was about to reunite with his secret girlfriend. He messaged her. "Just landed. Where are you?" But she couldn't answer. She was still driving home, rehearsing her breathing so she could pretend nothing happened. I imagined her lover's face as he stood at the passport control line, relaxed, smiling, running a hand through his hair, practically tasting the sex he thought was coming. Then his turn came. The officer scanned his passport, glanced at his form, and asked the routine question, "What's the purpose of your visit?" Her lover grinned. "Meeting my girlfriend." Normally nobody would care, but today, luck, or karma, tilted heavily in my favor. The officer narrowed his eyes, clicked something on his screen, and pulled up the accompanying person section, which still contained the passport copy my wife uploaded when booking the original trip. The passport copy that I switched. The one showing her married name. The one listing her as spouse with my picture beside it. The officer rotated the screen toward him. "Is this your girlfriend?" Her lover froze. His smile dropped. His eyes darted between the screen and the officer. It was her. Same face, same passport number, different name. A married name. The officer repeated the question slowly, almost bored. "Is this the woman you're meeting?" The silence stretched so long the officer lifted an eyebrow. And that was when the lover realized the truth. She hadn't just lied to me. She had lied to him too. He whispered something like, "She said she was single. The officer didn't care. "That's not what her documents say," he replied flatly. The moment must have hit him hard, harder than anything she'd ever done to me. Because cheating is one thing. Pretending your husband is dead? That's another level. He stepped aside from the booth, pale, sweaty, running a hand through his hair in disbelief. He texted her again, this time differently. "Why didn't you tell me you were married?" But again, silence. She was still speeding down the highway toward home, thinking she'd smooth-talk me with some ridiculous lie about glitches or overbookings. He sent another message. "Who is your husband?" And then, "Are you using me?" Then, "I don't want any part of this." And finally, "Lose my number." Then he blocked her. Just like that. The man she risked everything for, the man she whispered sweet nothings to while lying beside me in bed, had vanished into a foreign city without even giving her the courtesy of a last word. He walked out of the airport, grabbed a taxi, and disappeared it into crowded streets like someone running from a crime scene. And in a way, he was. She wasn't just cheating. She was constructing a whole new life while erasing the one she shared with me. Too bad her blueprint had a fatal flaw. She underestimated me. Meanwhile, back home, I heard the sound of her keys jingling at the front door. She stepped inside with wide, frantic eyes, cheeks flushed from stress. She froze when she saw me sitting calmly at the dining table, sipping tea like nothing in the world was wrong. "Hey," I said gently. "You're back early." Her throat bobbed. Yeah. There was, an issue with the airline." I smiled politely. "Oh? What happened?" She blinked rapidly, searching for lies in her brain like someone flipping through empty files. I think there was a glitch. The booking didn't show up. It's fine. I'll call them tomorrow." "Oh no," I said, faking sympathy. "That must have been stressful." She forced a laugh that died halfway. Yeah, you could say that." I nodded and returned to my tea. She didn't know that at this exact moment, her lover was being driven through a foreign city, blocked her number, and already checking into the hotel alone. She didn't know he'd discovered her married identity. She didn't know he'd realized she played him too. She didn't know her entire plan had collapsed in both countries at the same time. But she would. Soon. For now, I let her breathe. Let her relax. Let her feel like she was back in control. Because the next chapters, those would hurt more than any canceled flight ever could. She stood in the doorway like a guilty teenager caught sneaking in past curfew, shoulders tense, hands shaking just enough to betray what she was trying to hide. Her eyes darted around the room like she expected the walls to accuse her. "Do you want dinner?" I asked casually. That question nearly broke her. It was the normalcy, the calmness, the gentle way I looked up from my tea as if nothing in the world was wrong. She swallowed hard. Sure. I'm not really hungry, but sure." She sat across from me, hands gripping the edge of the table. I pretended not to see her panic. I pretended not to hear the shaky breaths she tried to hide. I pretended she didn't look like someone who'd just watched her double life crumble right at the airport counter. She poked at her food, unable to eat. After a minute, she finally spoke. "I feel horrible about the trip." "Oh?" I said softly. "Why?" Her eyes lifted quickly, searching my face for suspicion. She didn't find any. I made sure of it. "It was supposed to be relaxing," she stammered. "But everything went wrong. The airline messed up. My reservation disappeared." "Yeah," I nodded. "That's strange." She laughed nervously. "Totally strange. Totally predictable." She opened her mouth to offer another lie, but her phone buzzed. She flinched like it physically hurt her. A message appeared on her screen. The preview was visible for just 1 second before she snatched the phone up. "Bank alert. Outgoing transfer failed." Ah. She tried to move more money. Of course she did. I pretended not to notice and took a sip of tea. She stood abruptly. "I need to lie down." I watched her walk to the bedroom, shoulders hunched, guilt radiating off her like heat. When she shut the door, I opened my laptop, pulled up the digital folder I'd started compiling, and labeled it Exit Plan, Her. Inside, I stored everything: screenshots of her messages, copies of her flight confirmation, the passport scans under her maiden name, the failed transfer attempts, her call logs, her hotel booking, the voice recording from the night she whispered about an escape, and the emails she didn't think I knew about. I organized everything into neat, precise categories. Evidence was better than confrontation. Evidence was clean, calm, undeniable. She thought she was good at hiding, but cheaters always underestimate the people they betray. After half an hour, her bedroom door opened slightly. She peeked out. "Hey, babe? Yes? Can we watch a movie?" That one surprised me. She hadn't asked to watch a movie with me in months. I nodded. "Sure." She sat next to me on the couch, too close, too affectionate, trying to anchor herself to the version of me she still hoped existed. She rested her head on my shoulder. Her fingers grazed my arm lightly, a touch she probably used on him, now repurposed out of desperation. Her lips brushed my neck lightly, as if testing whether intimacy would erase suspicion. It didn't. It just reminded me how much of her body she gave to someone else. Still, I stayed calm, because calmness hurts more than anger when someone is drowning in guilt. Halfway through the movie, she finally broke. "Have you been upset with me lately?" she whispered. I kept my voice soft. "No. Why would I be upset?" She looked at me long, as if searching for cracks in the mask she didn't know was carved in stone. "No reason," she said quickly. "Just stress." "Work stress?" I asked. She flinched. "Yeah, work. Exactly." She wasn't good at lying. She thought she was. But guilt exposes the truth in micro-expressions she couldn't hide. Her phone buzzed again. Another bank notification. Her jaw clenched. She was falling apart piece by piece, trying desperately to rebuild the crumbling castle she'd built on lies. Later that night, as she showered, longer than usual, water running as if it could wash off guilt, I walked into the bedroom and stood by her dresser. She had left her purse open. Inside was a hotel receipt. Not for the canceled trip. Not for the lover's city. A receipt from our city. The date? 2 nights ago. My jaw tightened in quiet satisfaction. She wasn't just planning a trip. She was still seeing him right here, right under my nose. The receipt went into the evidence folder. When she exited the shower, wrapped in a towel, fresh scent filling the room, she smiled at me, timidly, nervously, with a strange, forced sweetness. "You're being so patient with me," she whispered. I stepped closer, brushed a strand of wet hair behind her ear, and whispered, "Always." Her breath caught. She leaned into my touch, lips parting slightly, her chest rising faster. She was trying to seduce me into forgetting, trying to anchor herself back into this marriage she secretly planned to abandon. She had no idea the ground beneath her was gone. That night she fell asleep quickly, exhaustion from stress. I lay awake beside her, watching the ceiling, listening to her soft breathing. In another country, her lover was probably drinking alone, realizing she had built their entire future on lies. Back here, she was curled against me, unaware her web of deceit had already been mapped, logged, backed up, and prepared. Tomorrow, the evidence would grow. Tomorrow, the downfall would begin. For now, I let her sleep peacefully. It would be the last peaceful night she would ever have in my house. The next morning, she moved around the house like a ghost. Quiet, distracted, jumping every time her phone buzzed. She kept sneaking glances at me, trying to read my expression the same way a gambler reads cards. She didn't know the game was already over. She was just playing out the last few hands while I held the final ace. I made breakfast. She pretended to eat. I pretended to believe her excuses about jet lag, from a flight she never boarded. Around noon, she must have lost the courage to hope her lover would text back. She opened her phone, stared at the screen for a full minute, then tucked it under her thigh like she could hide the silence coming from the other side of the world. By afternoon, she wasn't even pretending anymore. She paced the living room, scrolling, refreshing, typing, deleting. She looked like someone waiting for an oxygen machine to beep. My phone buzzed a few times. Emails, not her. And she flinched every time, like she hoped, absurdly, that it was her lover messaging me instead of her. She had no idea how close that guess would come. Because at exactly 3:42 p.m., my phone rang with an unknown international number. I recognized the country code immediately. Her lover's country. I let it ring twice before answering. Hello? A hesitant male voice exhaled shakily on the other end. Is this her husband? I leaned back on the couch, lowering my voice. This is. A beat of painful silence. Good, he said quietly. I need to talk to you. My wife froze mid-step. She turned slowly, watching me. She tried to mask the panic, failed miserably. I walked into my office and shut the door behind me. Go ahead, I said. He inhaled sharply, like a man about to confess something he'd been holding in too long. She told me you were dead. I didn't respond. I just waited. She told me she'd been a widow for 3 years, he continued. She said she had no one left here, no family, no husband, nothing. I could almost hear him rubbing his forehead on the other end, pacing, breaking down piece by piece. I swear to you, he added, I didn't know she was married. Not until I landed. Not until the passport officer showed me the document. So he knew. He knew everything now. He let out a bitter laugh. I flew across the world thinking I was meeting a single woman. I thought she was starting a new life with me. She planned to, I said calmly. How do you know? He whispered. Because I have her documents, I said. Her new identity, her transfer attempts, everything. He fell silent again, heavier this time. She used me. She used us both. No, he said quietly. She only used me emotionally. She used you financially. I smiled faintly. Fair point. He took a shaky breath. I'm sorry. Really. I didn't want to be involved in this disaster. You already were, I said. You're still part of the evidence. What do you mean? I opened my laptop, clicked on the folder labeled his name, and pulled up everything he had unknowingly left behind. Messages, screenshots, late-night voice notes. You sent her enough proof of the affair to fill a legal folder, I said. And now you're going to send the rest. He hesitated. What do you want from me? I want the truth. Another silence. Then he broke. She promised me we'd build a life together, he whispered. I thought she loved me. God, I thought she loved me. She doesn't love anyone, I replied. He inhaled sharply, like the words cut him, but he didn't deny it. I'm sending everything, he said quietly. The photos, the screenshots, the calls. I'll even record a video explaining how she lied to both of us. That would be helpful. He paused. Then, she deserves to be exposed. I didn't have to say anything. We both understood. Check your email, he added. You'll get everything within the hour. The call ended. When I stepped out of the office, she was standing there, arms folded awkwardly, eyes wide. Who was that? She asked softly. I looked directly into her eyes. The airline, I said calmly. They confirmed the refund. A lie. A clean, smooth lie she wasn't prepared for. She flinched. Oh. She wasn't relieved. She wasn't reassured. She was terrified because she knew, deep down, that something inside me had shifted. She reached out, touched my wrist gently, the same way she used to when she wanted me in bed. The same touch she probably reused on him. Are we okay? She whispered. I looked at her hand on my skin. The same hand that had held another man's passport, stroked his cheek, probably unbuttoned his shirt. I forced a warm smile. Of course we are. She almost cried from relief. She had no idea she was walking into a storm. An hour later, My inbox exploded. The lover sent everything he promised: screenshots, photos, videos, voice messages, and the final attachment, a recorded confession. In it, he looked straight into the camera and said, "She told me her husband was dead. I swear I didn't know. She lied to both of us." I saved it to the evidence folder. Then I whispered to myself, one more piece. Because now, I had her betrayal from both sides, her lies, her plans, her sex messages, her escape documents, her lover's testimony. Every angle of the trap was complete. She wasn't just cheating. She was building a whole new life in the shadows. And now I had the match to burn it all. Tomorrow, she would think we were celebrating our anniversary. Tomorrow, she would think she'd gotten away with everything. Tomorrow, I would invite everyone we knew. And tomorrow, she would watch her entire double life collapse on the living room wall, piece by piece, in front of her parents, her friends, her co-workers, and she would learn what it feels like to be the one stranded with no escape. I woke up the next morning before she did, not because I couldn't sleep, but because I didn't want to miss a single moment of what was about to happen. Today wasn't just another step in my plan. Today was the day everything she built in the shadows came crashing down into the light. And the best part? She thought today was special. Our anniversary dinner, a celebration of love she murdered long ago. I walked into the kitchen, started breakfast, and played soft music. When she finally came down the stairs yawning, she stopped at the sight of the table I had set. Fresh fruit, pancakes, coffee, flowers. For a moment, guilt cracked through her like lightning. She blinked quickly, swallowing hard. "This looks amazing," she whispered. "You deserve it," I said with a soft smile. Her eyes glistened. She was fragile now, a woman balancing on the edge of two lives, one real, one fake, and she didn't know which one was about to collapse first. Throughout the day, she floated around nervously, touching her hair, reapplying lip gloss, checking her phone every few minutes. She thought she was preparing for an evening where she'd play the role of the loving wife. She had no idea the audience was coming for her, not the other way around. By 6 p.m., guests began arriving. Her parents, her sister, two of her closest friends, my co-workers, our neighbors. She greeted everyone with hugs and the fakest smile I'd ever seen. Her hands were shaking. Her voice was too high, too cheerful. She kept glancing at me like she was afraid I'd suddenly confront her in the middle of the living room. But I didn't. Not yet. We ate. We laughed. We reminisced. She relaxed. Exactly what I needed. Then, just as everyone finished their drinks, I tapped my glass lightly. "I have a little surprise," I said. "A video I put together about our years together. Thought it'd be a nice way to celebrate." She froze. Her smile evaporated. Her hand tightened around her wine glass. A video?" she breathed. "Yeah," I said. "Our story." Our guests clapped eagerly. She didn't, but she had no choice. This was a celebration after all. I dimmed the lights, connected my laptop to the TV, and pressed play. The slideshow began with innocent photos: our wedding, our honeymoon, birthdays, home renovations, trips we took years ago. She exhaled slowly, thinking maybe, just maybe, I hadn't figured anything out. For 45 seconds, she lived in hope. And then, the first shift. The screen changed to a screenshot of an email. "Your flight confirmation, Bon Voyage Getaways." Passengers, her maiden name, plus lover's name. Her mother gasped. Her father straightened in his chair. She shot up from her seat. Wait, turn it off." I didn't. The next slide appeared. Her hotel reservation. Couple's suite. 2 guests, one of them not me. She covered her mouth with both hands, eyes filling with horror. "No, no, no, this isn't..." But the screen didn't care. It moved on. More screenshots, her messages, her whispered voice recordings, her calling me the plumber to her lover. Every lie she told displayed in bright HD in front of 20 stunned people. Her friends stared at her like she'd become a stranger. Her mother started crying. Her sister whispered, "How could you?" My wife stumbled backward, shaking her head in disbelief, as if the screen itself had betrayed her. And then the final blow hit. The last image faded into a video. It was her lover, looking directly into the camera, saying the truth she never expected to haunt her. She told me her husband was dead. She lied to both of us. A collective gasp echoed around the room. My wife collapsed to her knees. "No, please, turn it off, please." But the video kept playing. She used me to run away. She told me she had no family, no husband, nobody. I didn't know she was married, I swear. Silence swallowed the room. My wife curled into herself on the floor, sobbing so violently her shoulders shook. Her carefully constructed world, her lies, her fantasies, her escape plan, had been annihilated in 12 minutes. I stepped forward, looked down at her shaking form, and said softly, "Stand up." She lifted her head slowly, mascara running down her cheeks, lips trembling. "Please, please don't do this," she begged. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult her. I didn't show anger. I just looked at her with the calmness of a man no longer bound by love. "I'm not done," I said. Her breath hitched. "What more do you want from me?" I turned to the guests. "Everyone, thank you for being here tonight. The next part is important." Her eyes widened. "No, please, don't." But it was too late. I reached into my jacket, pulled out a folder, and placed it on the coffee table in front of her. The folder labeled Exit Plan Her. Inside, her forged identity documents, her new signature forms, her transfer receipts, her attempt to drain our savings, her notes about leaving the country permanently. It wasn't just cheating. She was preparing to vanish, and everyone in the room saw it. She let out a strangled cry, collapsing fully onto the floor. I watched her break, not with satisfaction, but with closure. It was time. I pulled out one last paper, our divorce agreement, and handed it to her calmly. "Sign it after everyone leaves," I said softly. The room was silent. Her life, her lies, her escape plan, everything she'd been building behind my back, behind everyone's back, destroyed. And it wasn't even the final chapter. She didn't move. She stayed on the floor, shoulders shaking, palms flat against the carpet as if she needed physical contact with something real to keep from slipping out of reality entirely. Around us, the room stayed painfully silent. Her parents horrified, her sister covering her face, friends whispering prayers under their breath. She finally lifted her head, eyes wide, face streaked with mascara, breathing in short, broken gasps. "This isn't what you think," she whispered. Her voice cracked on every word. "Oh?" I said softly. "Then explain it." She shook her head violently. "Not here. Please, please, can we talk alone?" "No," I said, calm as ever. "You created this mess in secret. You hid it in the dark. You lied to every single person sitting in this room. You wanted privacy when you betrayed us." I gestured to the screen behind her. "Now the truth gets the same audience your lies had." Her mother cried harder. Her father muttered a prayer under his breath. My wife looked around the room, reaching for sympathy that didn't exist anymore. She pushed herself up just enough to sit on her knees, trembling. "I only wanted to be happy," she whispered. I stepped closer. "Happy? You booked flights under your maiden name. You transferred money out of our joint account. You forged documents. You planned an escape." "No!" she shrieked. "That's not what it was." I opened the folder. Page 1. Her new identity form. Page 2. Her timed transfer schedule, showing the exact day she planned to wipe our savings. Page 3. A map, labeled in her handwriting, with districts circled in the country she planned to move to. The room froze. My wife went limp, her chin trembling as she stared at her own handwriting like it belonged to someone else. "I wasn't leaving you," she whispered weakly. "I was leaving everything." I raised an eyebrow. "With another man?" Silence. She looked down. That was the closest thing to honesty she'd shown all night. Her sister stood abruptly, chair scraping the floor. "Is this real?" she whispered. "Tell me this isn't real." My wife sobbed harder, clutching her hair with both hands. Her father stood too, voice dark. "You were going to run away from your family? From your marriage? From the country?" My wife couldn't answer. She just folded into herself, as if she wished the floor would swallow her whole. But there was still one more twist, the one no one in the room was prepared for. I took out my phone, unlocked it, and tapped a video I hadn't shown yet. Her eyes widened in terror when she recognized the thumbnail. "No," she whispered. "Please don't." Too late. The video played. Her lover, sitting on the edge of his hotel bed, speaking directly into the camera. She told me she was moving here permanently. She said she was waiting for one last transfer. She told me her husband died and left her money. I didn't know she was scamming him too. Her mother covered her mouth, crying into her hands. Her father looked like he aged 10 years in 1 minute. My wife crawled forward on her hands and knees, reaching for me, as if begging could reverse physics, time, evidence. "Please," she choked out. "Please turn it off. I didn't scam you. I swear, I just didn't want to live here anymore. I didn't want this life." "But you wanted the money," I said quietly. "You wanted a new identity. You wanted to vanish." She dropped her head to the floor, forehead touching the carpet, sobbing uncontrollably. She wasn't crying because she loved me. She was crying because her plan was dead. I turned to the guests, calm, composed. "This wasn't an affair," I said. "This was an exit strategy." Her best friend gasped. Her coworker whispered, "Oh my God." My coworker muttered, "This is criminal." She lifted her head, tears streaming, hair stuck to her face, voice empty. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone." "But you hurt everyone," I said. The moment the words hit her, she crumbled fully, collapsing sideways into her mother's lap, bawling like a child. Her mother stroked her hair but didn't say a word. Her father stared at the wall, face pale, realizing the daughter he raised wasn't the woman sobbing in front of him. I took a step back and looked at her. My wife, a woman whose lies had finally caught up with her, whose escape plan had imploded in the most public, humiliating way possible. She looked up at me through wet lashes, voice a broken whisper. "What do you want from me?" My expression didn't change. "The truth," I said, "which you've already given me." She sobbed again. "And consequences," I added. Everyone watched as I pulled the final document from the folder, her face drained of all color. "Please," she whispered. "Not here. Not in front of them." But she didn't get to choose anymore. I placed the divorce papers on the coffee table. Her father exhaled shakily. Her mother cried harder. Her friends all stood in stunned silence. My wife stared at the papers like they were a death sentence. Little did she know. Tomorrow would be worse. Tomorrow came part of the plan she never saw coming. And the final line she'd hear from me? Already written. She didn't sign the divorce papers that night. She couldn't. She was too busy crying on the floor, begging for forgiveness with a voice so thin it barely existed. Her parents stayed silent. Her friends didn't know where to look. Even her sister, who always defended her, stood frozen with her arms crossed, shaking her head in disbelief. I didn't yell. I didn't insult her. I didn't even raise my voice. I simply told everyone, "Thank you for coming. You can leave now." One by one they walked out, some in disbelief, some in pity, some in complete shock. Her father was the last to go. He leaned in close, whispered to her in a trembling voice, "You brought this on yourself." Then he walked out, closing the door behind him. And suddenly it was silent. Just me and her. My wife curled on the floor, mascara streaking down her cheeks, hair messy, breathing uneven, looking nothing like the woman who'd once planned a future with another man in another country. She looked up at me slowly. "Please," she whispered. "Please don't leave me." I sat on the couch calmly and watched her kneel in front of me. Her hands shook as they reached toward my legs, like she needed to cling to something to stay upright. I made mistakes, she choked out. Horrible mistakes. I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't thinking straight. You planned it for months, I said. She flinched. That's not the point, she whispered, breath shaking. I didn't want this life anymore. I didn't mean to fall for him. I didn't mean to lie to you. I don't know why I did it. I don't know what happened to me. You cheated, I said calmly. Then you planned to erase me. I know, she sobbed. I know. But I'm begging you, don't destroy me. Don't take everything from me. I'm not taking anything from you, I said. You already threw it all away. Her lips trembled. She grabbed my hands and pressed her forehead against them, like someone praying to a god who had already abandoned them. I'll change, she whispered. I swear I will. I'll do anything you want. Anything. Just don't leave me. I gently pulled my hands away. She broke again. Why? She whispered. Why are you doing this? I tilted my head slightly. You were ready to leave me for another man, I said. But you're terrified now because he left you first. Her breathing hitched violently. I leaned forward slightly. You didn't lose me tonight, I whispered. You lost your fantasy. She collapsed against my knees, sobbing so loudly the walls echoed. I stood up. She grabbed my wrist. Please, don't go. Don't do this, please. I pulled away gently, walked to the dresser, and took out the final legal document. I'd spent the last 3 days preparing it while pretending everything was normal. A full financial transfer reversal, proof of her fraud attempts, and legal protection ensuring she wouldn't get a cent from me. She watched me place the folder in front of her. What is this? She whispered. My lawyer finished the paperwork this morning. Her face drained. I transferred all shared assets back into my name, I said, using the evidence from your escape plan. She blinked rapidly. What does that mean? It means, I said calmly, you're leaving this marriage with nothing. She made a strangled noise in her throat, shaking her head. No, you can't. I don't have anywhere to go. I don't have any money. You had a country to go to, I said. Remember? That wasn't real, she cried. I was confused. I wasn't thinking. But you were thinking clearly when you booked flights under another name. She looked like someone whose entire body had gone cold. I placed the divorce papers in her trembling hands. Sign them. She stared at me with wide, hopeless eyes. You don't love me anymore, she whispered. I stopped loving who you became, I answered. Tears welled. But I can be her again. I can... No, I said firmly. You can't. She looked down at the papers, hands shaking violently, breathing sharp and uneven. For the first time, she seemed to truly grasp the reality. Her lover abandoned her. Her family was ashamed. Her friends saw her exposed. Her money was gone. Her escape plan destroyed. Her marriage officially over. She had nothing left. Still crying, she forced a signature onto the page. It was messy, uneven, barely legible. But it was done. I took the papers gently and slid them back into the folder. She reached out for me again. Please don't walk away. I stepped back. She crawled toward me on her knees, tears soaking the carpet. Please, I have nowhere to go. I opened the door. A cold breeze drifted in. She stared at me, eyes wide, broken, terrified. You can't do this, she whispered. You can't just leave me here with nothing. I looked at her one final time. Enjoy your next trip, I said quietly, because it's the only one you'll ever book alone. And then I closed the door behind me, leaving her with the ruins she built herself, and walking away from a life I no longer belonged in.